Okay, ladies and gents, so now here's my preview for the Brazil and the Serbia game. That's right, another game that I'm super excited about, on the same day that Portugal and Uruguay, well, not Portugal and Uruguay, but Portugal and Ghana are playing each other. So obviously, I can't tell which game is going to be more exciting. Uruguay versus South Korea, Portugal versus Ghana, or Brazil versus Serbia. Now, obviously, for Brazil versus Serbia, I don't see how Serbia are going to. Well, I think Serbia might have a chance of being able to put up a challenge here against Brazil, but honestly, I personally would love to see Serbia go far at the World Cup. I mean, it's been forever since Serbia has made it out of the group stage at the World Cup. First of all, obviously Serbia last time they made it out of the group stage at the World Cup was 1998 when they were still, Yugoslavia. That was, of course, in the 90s when there was basically, like, I guess you could say, I'm not going to get to the political aspect of it, but to give you people a quick story. Obviously, the 90s, there was that whole breakup of Yugoslavia and all that. And obviously, ever since the dissolution of Yugoslavia, it seems like that Serbia's football team has never really been the same team for the last, I guess, 24 years now, because it's officially going to be 25 years since Serbia last made it out of the group stage at the World Cup. The closest they came to, in my opinion, was 2010 and 2018. But, looking at the Serbian national team, obviously, I think that they boast the best striker partnership at the World Cup here with Mitrovic and Vlahovic. And obviously, for Serbia, man, it's going to, the biggest question I have about the Serbia national team at the World Cup is what is their game plan for against Brazil? Because if you think about it, man, this Brazilian front attack is absolutely lethal, and Brazil obviously have obviously Serbia, their front attack, I think, matches up very well against Brazil's front attack. But, in terms of quality, obviously Brazil, they have the better quality in players in terms of talent. Obviously, that's where Brazil edge out Serbia here in this matchup. But in my opinion, the biggest task or the biggest question I have for the Serbia national team is will their back four be able to be good enough to contain Brazil's front attack or no? Because obviously, a lot of people probably are picking Brazil to beat Serbia in this game, and rightfully so. I mean, Brazil, they have the better team, in terms of quality, especially in terms of defense. Obviously, that's where Brazil really, and I guess you could say maybe in midfield, I guess that's where Brazil really edge out Serbia. But obviously Serbia, they have their own midfielder, their own star midfielder in Milenkovic-Savic. But I personally think that Serbia, the only two things that I think Serbia are still missing in this World Cup squad that, prevents them from being World Cup contenders, in my opinion, is them having a world-class midfielder that's, basically a holding box-to-box midfield that can, basically complement Milenkovic-Savic and just a very solid rock in defense. However, with Pavlovic and I guess Maksimovic, then maybe they can be the defenders that can lead Serbia's back four and all that stuff. But the way how I see it, first of all, for my prediction, I'm going to say probably realistically 2-0 for Brazil. That's my honest prediction, because obviously that was the last time, that was the result of the Serbia and Brazil matchup at the 2018 World Cup. However, Serbia in that game against Brazil, I think, did pretty decently. However, Serbia, they didn't have the squad that was good enough to compete against Brazil. Like, yeah, they did create some great amount of chances and all that stuff, but obviously Brazil, they beat Serbia 2-0 at the 2018 World Cup. So obviously, this feels like it could be a similar result again 4 years later. Well, obviously, I do think Serbia is going to get a goal on the sheet against Brazil. I could see that happening because obviously with the talent of Mitrovic and with Vlahovic here, obviously, I guess that's one way how I think Serbia edge out Brazil in this game, obviously, is just in terms of aerial duels, because obviously Serbia have two really tall strikers, and, if you watched Mitrovic play, you know that he is really good at winning aerial duels. So obviously that's one way how I think Serbia can maybe pull off a potential upset here over Brazil, is if they can, just win those aerial duels. But obviously Brazil, their back four is very organized, and their front attack, obviously with Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Neymar, it's going to be a very difficult task for Serbia's back four, figuring out how to contain that really stacked Brazil front attack, But in my honest opinion here, heading into this game, Like I said before, if Serbia can just defensively perform very well, if they can just put on a good defensive effort, if they can just, have a solid defensive display, then that's realistically the only way how I think Serbia are going to realistically beat Brazil here. Because otherwise, I don't see Serbia beating Brazil at all in this game. However, in past World Cups, if you go back to the 2010 World Cup, Serbia, they got paired up in a group with Germany, Ghana, and Australia. And, I think it was the second game where Serbia, nobody thought they were going to beat Germany, but Serbia, they beat Germany at the 2010 World Cup. The prime Germany squad from 2010 and from 2006 and 2014, that prime Germany team that was so dominant, yeah, Serbia, they were able to pull off a crazy upset and defeat Yogi Löw's 2010 Germany squad, but that was obviously a long time ago. And back then, Serbia, they had a really good squad under Radomir Antic, and obviously, it was just crazy to me how Serbia were able to defeat Germany at the 2010 World Cup, but yet they couldn't make it out of the group stage because they lost to Australia and Ghana, So obviously, it's just crazy to me how Serbia can defeat Germany, but, well, with a performance like that, they should have been able to make it out of the group stage at the 2010 World Cup, but I guess, reality just paints a different picture. So obviously, Serbia, they beat Germany at the 2010 World Cup, so I think to myself that if Serbia can beat Germany at the 2010 World Cup, under Radomir Antic, then I think they might have a good chance of potentially beating this really good Brazil team, this Serbia team, with under Stojkovic. Yeah, I think that maybe they have a somewhat decent chance, but that's going to be impossible, because obviously the biggest two things that are missing in the Serbian national team that I guess still kind of maybe prevent them from being complete World Cup contenders is seeing how well their goalkeeper can do, and them trying to find a player that can, opposite complement Milinkovic-Savic, and just them not having that solid rock in defense like how they did under Nemanja Vidic. Because obviously, if Serbia still had prime Nemanja Vidic in the squad, then I think they would be World Cup contenders. I think you could make a case and say Serbia, they could be potential World Cup contenders, but obviously Serbia, they haven't been able to produce a good world-class defender since Nemanja Vidic, and obviously Serbia, they are still trying to figure out, I guess, who can be the player that can, fill in the void left by Nemanja Vidic, because, Nemanja Vidic, I'm going to tell you, man, I was a big fan of Nemanja Vidic. I watched him play with Serbia, and yeah, he had his moments where he did underperform with the Serbia national team. I think that's the reason why Vidic retired from the Serbian national team in 2010, I believe. I mean, 2010, 2011. But at the same time, right now, since he retired, Serbia, they just haven't been able to find that player that can resemble the talent of Nemanja Vidic, because that's what I think Serbia really needs in their back four if they want to be able to compete against Brazil, against Switzerland, and especially against the Cameroon. Well, their front attack, is pretty good, but it's just their defense. Yeah, Serbia's defense is still very, very questionable. Heading into this game and all that stuff, but I feel like I have nothing much else to say here in this video, so yeah, I'm going to say 3-2 for Brazil, or 2-0 for Brazil, as I should say, is how the scoreline said last, otherwise, 2018, but yeah, so let me know what you guys think about this. See ya.